So while the trance is out, John and Brad are going to go ahead and take care of the leak at the selector shaft. Just involves taking the pan off, valve body, and then removing the selector shaft. And I believe there was 2 O-rings that needed to be replaced. So they're just getting the last little bit drained out and getting ready to open it up and take care of that little issue. JJ's been doing an awesome job. He's been the one taking care of getting all these inner plates for the frame all made to fit and got them all ready for me to tack and then weld in.
Getting the transmission painted, getting it ready to go back in. Doing our final plates on the inside of the frame for plating that. Just a couple small things to get going next time we're here.
Right.
Tidy up some stuff.
Yep. Jay's been over here busy working on the frame rails. These last couple pieces are fun. They got a whole bunch of radiuses and stuff.
Looks like he's getting it close.
Oh yeah. Just got to weld in that one and then this one here. That'll be all set. Alright, so one little thing we did here. Now that the inside of the frame is plated, the hole for the wire harness was closed off. So we figured we should scrap a piece of 2x3 and plasma cut out a nice rectangle hole. Just got to trim off this excess here and nice little passageway through for the harness. Alright, so it doesn't look like much, but quite a bit was done today. I think I already mentioned the front 3 plates on both sides were already welded in. We got the last one on both sides. I just got those welded in. JJ got those nice and cleaned up and fit. We just had a scrap piece of 2x3 tube, so that worked out perfect for the access for the wire harness from the back, all the fuel pump, rear lights, etc. It's bigger than what we needed, but like I said, free scrap bin. So, and then John got his C4 cleaned up today and painted. So that's over here curing up. Brad from Riding Shotgun Adventures was here last weekend helping John. They had the valve body out and the selector shaft. There's two seals in there, so they got those replaced. So that's cool. So moving on, like I said, the trans is ready to go back in. John's got a brand new torque converter. But gonna get the frame rails and stuff cleaned up, primed and painted. I'm gonna get the top parts of these mounts welded in. And then John did order his front drive shaft, so we'll have that. Today's Saturday, the 15th, so we should have that probably by next Thursday, Friday. Once I have the drive shaft, well, I guess I'll put the trans and stuff back in and dry fit again one last time. Drive shaft, and then that's going to help me determine my upper third link length and location. From what I can tell, it's pretty good, but I've been holding off welding that bracket and making that link until I can verify with an actual drive shaft. That way, if you lengthen the upper link, it will more aggressively point the pinion up as you're drooping out. So depending on how it is now, with the adjustments that I have available at this time, will determine if I want to move that back, say, an inch or two, and allow that to pivot up more aggressively towards the T-case. so there's no front drive shaft bind. Obviously, we want to get maximum articulation, maximum travel from the ORIs, and we don't want anything to bind, so we want everything to be happy. So that's the goal with that. And then got a little tool here I'm going to show you once we get the drive shaft and everything back in. I've seen online a few months back, and then I just saw somebody else post it. So JJ has a 3D printer, and he printed up this little tool that I can't wait to show you guys. So let's move on here. I think I've pretty much covered everything on this. So next we'll be moving on with the trans T-case back in and figuring out the drive shaft angle and that upper link. All right, so I threw the cross members back in real quick just to make sure they were lined up. Went ahead and welded the tops of these 3 locations. Still waiting on that one because I think I'm still going to want to pull that one off to fully weld underneath that upper third link bracket. And then right now I'm just going to fill these holes right here where that factory cross member where the rivets were at. I still have one of these little fish lines, so I'm just going to feed a bolt up the frame rail because now they're plated, not as easy to access. And then see, like I just did here, then just weld them, grind them smooth, and then this cross member is just going to get welded on, and that'll be good to go. Basically, we're trying to close up all the holes we don't need, which is why throughout the video we've plugged all the frame holes, because now that the frame's boxed, we don't want stuff to get in there. We're still going to have some holes on the bottom, that way they can be washed out and drained, so we'll be good to go. Here's a little bit of a better view. Fish line them through, tack them in place, cut them flush, weld them, grind them. Holes filled. And I'm doing it this way because I can't fit a brass bar back there. Obviously, it would have been smart to do this before I plated it, so my bad. But there's always another way.
Quick update.
All right, back in the barn. Everyone's here. John got the torque converter full of ETF set in. Just got the trans put up.
Weekend update at the Bastion Barn.
Right. So now we're getting the trans cross member in to move forward here. And then we'll get the Atlas in. And then we got this rear cross member welded in today real quick. So nothing crazy, just moving on here. All right, so the trans is in permanently. Torque converter, I was going to put the starter in, torque converter nuts. And then we got the advanced adapters, adapter plate spacer that goes to the Dana 20 housing. That's RTV'd and bolted because the Atlas keys into this with all of its studs. So that's good to go. We're going to leave the Atlas dry right now just in case it has to come back out. But we want to showcase a little 3D printed tool that JJ from Broncos R Us. We all saw a post on this, and then we all instantly messaged JJ because we know he has a 3D printer. It's basically a little 3D printed plastic tool that goes into a 1/2-inch socket. The socket size is determined of your pinion nut. And then you buy a cheap little 9mm laser off Amazon. And this gives you an exact pointing reference of your pinion angle for your drive shafts. This is an amazing tool. So now we know where our pinion angle is going to be. The drive shaft will be here. Let's see, today's Saturday. John's got his Tom Woods drive shaft coming Tuesday. So we already know the measurements because we got that ordered. Now we know the pinion angle. Now this will allow me to move on to the upper third link and bracket. and finish that part. All right, so same thing on the back. Got the 9-inch. The 9-inch is offset a little bit towards the passenger side, but not by too much, so we can still get an idea for the pinion angle. So super cool tool. I'll put a link in the description. JJ will have these for sale on their Broncos R Us website, and that'll be in the description. All right, moving on, we're gonna get the Atlas twin stick shifter stuff mocked up here. So that's what we're working on right now, all the linkage. And then once we get it located, we're probably gonna have to put the frame, put the roller tires on so that we can put each corner on skates, because I'm sure the frame and everything has moved side to side, front to back. So when we put the body down to locate the shifter, we're gonna have to shimmy it around. All right, look what showed up. This is, well, John sent his old one in that was originally on the front. And Tom Woods rebuilds and resizes, shortens lengths, whatever you got to do, and it saves a ton of money. So instead of buying a whole nother shaft for, who knows, $400 to $500, you can send your old Tom Woods shaft in, and they will fully go through it, rebuild it, and do what they got to do to it, and for half the cost or more savings. All right, I just got her bolted in. Looks so good in there, nice and straight, perfect clearance. Remember, we used that laser pointing tool that JJ from Broncos R Us 3D prints now. So I know we're pointing at it. Now let me group everything out and test the pinion angle in all scenarios and go from there. At the extreme test first, this is what I've been waiting for. Chances of John having this truck fully drooped out both sides is basically never going to happen. But this is what would cause the most extreme drive shaft issue. Well, I'm happy to report that there is no bind at the axle or at the double cardan. So that makes me super happy. So now I'm going to test everything else. Full droop, full stuff, full droop, full stuff, full bump, and that'll be all verified here in a minute, and then I can move on with welding that upper link and making that upper link bar, and then we can call the front end pretty much done. All right, full bump. This is the second scenario that you would more commonly find drive shaft bind. So we passed the first test. Now we're going to test or pass the next test. I can already tell it looks perfect. No bind. So that's super cool. And I'll check the other way, but I know the other way is not going to matter, but cover all of our bases. Now this is full stuff. And as you can imagine, no issue. But I will say, or I will admit on camera, because I never claim to be perfect. So a couple videos ago, I was doing the lower lengths and evening them out. I must have moved the axle forward a little bit more than I had it. And then the pinion angle, before we checked it with the laser, was below the yoke on the transfer case. So that made a little bit of a difference because we actually had to tilt this up a little bit. So combination of having the lower links possibly a little bit longer and then pointing this up more did rotate the whole axle. So it's hard to pick up on camera, but the very front of the truss was coming in contact just slightly to the track bar. So I backed the lower links off one rotation, and then I'll just flap disc the front of this truss, which doesn't matter. Just for, I mean, we got clearance, but I'm going to take off a little bit more once everything's drooped out, and then we'll be good to go. But overall, to, again, not have a bolt-on kit like 99.9% of the builds out there, to design your own and try to get everything to clear, clearance, and work together, it's not easy. So, super happy and proud moment for me. So I'm going to droop out passenger side now, and just that'll confirm all the checks. But I'm super happy. Right, last test, which I know is going to pass, but I'd rather check things 3 times than assume. So passenger side fully drooped, driver side fully stuffed, and like I just said, Driveshaft perfectly happy. So we're good to go. So now at this point, this is what I've been waiting for. I know a lot of you are probably thinking, like, you know, what am I waiting for on this frame side mount and this link? I don't like to weld anything 100% until I know 1,000% that I'm good. I've learned a lot on my first crazy build, and I still learn every day. So it's just check, and make sure. But now I can confirm, after all this stuff's good, that can be welded in 100%. I can make that link, and we can call the front suspension done. So I'm super happy. All right, so I just measured center of bolt to center of bolt on the upper link, 35.5 inches. So I'm going to lay out 2 heims and bungs, and then get my measurement for that 1 3/4 120 wall tube, and get that made up next. You guys have seen this in the lower link video, but tube is cut to length, chamfered the sides or both ends, cleaned them out, and then drilled straight through for plug welds. So I'll get that welded up. All right, fully welded, primed, painted. Let that dry. Gonna move on over here. I can't remember if it was last video or earlier in this video. I did go ahead and weld the tops of these frame brackets, with the exception of this one. So I'm gonna throw the Badlands jack under the trans, take the weight off, take the center crossmember out, take that part off, and I'm gonna fully weld the upper third link bracket, because it's easier. It'll be easier to weld upside down with this out of the way, and I'll be able to weld this no problem being on top of it later. All right, drivetrain supported, cross members out. That lower link crossmember bracket from the frame is out. So I know, in my mind, it makes sense to make things modular. So now I have all this room to weld that up. So I'll do that right now. All right, so you'll see quite a bit has changed. I didn't think it was necessary to show me welding the brackets and this and that and putting everything back together. You've seen me do that probably 3 or 4 times throughout the video series. So everything is together. I did some more measuring on the lower links. Everything should be as close as we can get it until we can street drive it and double check, you know, how it tracks on the road. But as far as measurements on the truck, everything is good. Everything's been anti-seized. I went through and tightened up all the hardware so far, and the jam nuts on the links. And then put the roller tires on it, on roller caster things, whatever you want to call those, skates. And then obviously the ORIs were still not charged yet. So I put a level on the body mounts and basically put just enough nitrogen in the shocks to level the body out. So setting the body down will be nice and square, and then having the frame on the skates, we'll be able to slide the body back and forth, forward and backwards, and square it up and set it down. So super exciting. It's finally looking like something. I know everything's just coming full circle here. All right, so this is going to wrap up episode 8 on the build, and we're getting very close. We're getting down to basically just getting ready to square the body up. Twin stick shifter hole in the floor pan. Brake lines at each of the 4 corners. Wiring and plumbing on the motor and truck. Steering shaft. Get that back in. Headers, and then the exhaust. So we're getting there. The truck, the build itself is almost done. There's really nothing else that I need to build or fabricate on the truck. Yeah, moving on. So I'm sure this video is probably long by this point, and probably I think the first half or whatnot's probably was probably kind of random, this and that. But there's just, once you get to the end of a build, there's just lots of little random things here and over there, and there's just stuff to get done. But all right, this one's done. The truck is almost there, and we'll see you back on episode 9.